Music. Horror. Art. Politics. Badassery. Welcome to Society 13.
Welcome to Prog-Watch with your one and only host who is the most, Prog-Squatch.
And welcome back to another installment of Prog-Watch. Once again, I have my friend Dave Luddig in the co-host chair.
Howdy, world.
Howdy, world. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is you're listening, because this is a podcast and you can listen whenever you want. But you're going to want to make sure to check us out at a certain time, because we have big news that we are moving to Prog Positivity Radio Network on the internet. Beginning this Wednesday, which is the 29th. Yes.
At
November 29th at 8 p.m., we are going to be a regular fixture on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And the show is repeated.
The show will be repeated on Thursday, but I'm not 100% certain of what time.
I thought you said like 3 in the afternoon, something like that.
It was going to be in the afternoon for sure. We didn't specify that, but we'll definitely get back to you on that. I have to hit up Moses over at Prog Positivity and verify the exact time of the next day airing. But he explained that they like to have it in the evening for the United States listeners, but there are some listeners overseas, so they're already in bed at 8 p.m.
Right.
Our time, so they repeat it in the afternoon. And then he said some people listen at work too. They might not listen at home, but they listen at work. So the afternoon airing the next day seems to cover all bases, I guess.
And the new format we think will be pretty exciting and a lot more expansive for those of you who are regular listeners to the podcast.
Yeah, we're going to have to change the format just a tad to comply with regulations now that we're going big time on the network. But we're going to start, we're going to cover 2 bands per episode, and the really good bands, well, we're going to come back the next week and we're going to talk some more about them, and that'll have us in compliance. And we're also starting another new feature, which we want to tell you all about right now. It's going to be called the Prog-Watch Watch List. And basically, we're soliciting all you guys out there who are in bands or have friends in bands that are, trying to make the bigs, kind of unknown at this point. We made an album, you're playing around, whatever the situation is. If you have prog music that you've recorded, if you want to, we would like you to submit it to us for inclusion on the program.
We want to hear it.
We want to hear it. And we'd also like for you to send a short bio. Lets us know who's in the band, where you're from, what you're doing, where you're playing, etc.
The standard influences.
That kind of stuff, yeah.
Even if you have, just a couple songs, a lot of bands are putting EPs out. Send us what you've got.
Right. We
can help get you a little bit of exposure, perhaps.
Well, literally, we can make it so that thousands of people hear your music, because those are the kinds of numbers that we're pulling down these days. So what I'd like you to do is you can either contact me through the Facebook page, Prog-Watch on Facebook. Search for that. Find it. Like it while you're there, maybe. And you can either, send me a message there or embed some kind of link. You could send me a link to any kind of a cloud service like Kiwi 6 or Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever your favorite cloud storage service is. You can send me a link that way. You could also email me an MP3 of the song. You could, if it's under, I guess some emails have restrictions, but most of the time you can attach an MP3 to an email. And if you want to do it that way, you would send it to bigsquatch@verizon.net.
So it would be real nice, I'm sure, if it was me to hear my music next to some of these bands that we're playing.
Absolutely.
So
this is your chance.
And speaking of that, I guess, Tone, it's time for us to move into today's feature.
Yes, and we have this week a band that we've been working with for a couple of weeks to bring you this show. It's a band called Night Area from the Netherlands. And first off, I want to thank very much their promoter, Hans Ravensberger. Hans, you've been a great guy. You've been very cooperative, and you've helped us put together this show, and I hope you're going to be happy with the results.
Well, I know I was happy listening to the music. This is one of the better bands. They're all good, but this one really, I just want to clap my hands. The music is just, my notes just have words like stunning. Wow. Sign me up. All over these albums.
Cool, yeah. And Hans was even able to get us a little sampling of the new album, which was just released about the middle of the month here. And it's called Hyperdrive. Again, the band's Night Area. So we're going to be sampling a brand new track from Hyperdrive later on in the show.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a little sneak peek about that as well, too. And we'll get more into that as we move along.
Right. But I guess right now it might be a nice time to play the
let's get right into it.
Questions, right?
You want to do the Q&A first?
Yeah, why don't we?
Let's introduce the band then.
Okay.
Tony?
Dave?
the driving force behind the band. Gentleman named Gerben
Klazinga. Gerben Klazinga.
Again, my apologies to the band here in America. We are awful when it comes to pronouncing names.
I think we're probably pretty close on this one.
I wouldn't count on it. But he is the driving force behind the band.
He's a keyboardist.
Like a lot of the bands, Tone, we feature, where there was one guy who's pretty much at the helm. He's doing it all. He's writing, playing a lot of the instruments, or at least composing on, keyboards there. And over the course of the albums that are primarily his, the lyrics have been written or co-written by him, as well as the lead singer, a gentleman by the name of Mark Smith.
Yep.
Who I have some interesting things to say about his lyrics as we go along too. They're really interesting. But it was Klazinga himself who, as you'll hear in the interviews, I've had the privilege of hearing a little bit of it. Started out very young, and a lot of his ideas when we're teenagers, you tend to scrap and throw that stuff away eventually. He didn't. He held on to the good ideas, and eventually a lot of those ideas made it to his first album, The Sun Also Rises. And we'll be playing a track of that very soon, but I think Tony wants to get into the Q&A here.
Yeah, let's play the Q&A because, again, Hans Ravensberger, their promoter, was kind enough to set it up where I could ask Gerben some questions, and he would answer them in his own voice, and we're going to play that for you now.
Compared to my voice.
The first thing we asked Gerben was, where do his ideas come from? From jamming sessions, doodling, or from his head or his heart, and then trying to get that idea through on his instruments?
I start to listen to a lot of my favorite prog music. The next step is to make a carcass of the song, so the song flows in a natural way. I fill the verses and choruses with parts I improvise on the fly. In the next step, I record the drums, bass, guitars and keys on my computer and send it to the other members. In the rehearsal room, the song becomes a band product. Our singer is making the right vocal melody and makes a fitting lyric.
Next, we asked Gerben what kind of instruments he uses and if he has modified them in any way to get a distinct sound.
I have used several setups during my musical career, but my latest setup for live gigs is Apple MacBook with Logic Pro X, also called as Mainstage 3. 4 master keyboards are attached to the MacBook, and each song has its own settings spread over the 4 keyboards. There is also a click track with effects and backing vocals in the Mac. The benefits of this setup is that I can use the sounds I want because MainStage contains a sampler with my own Mellotron samples I like.
Next, we asked what the recording process was like for Gerben and Night Area. Was it very structured, or was it more flexible, and did the songs evolve as the recording sessions progressed?
When all songs are rehearsed with the band, we make recordings. All the band members have their own home studios, so I receive all the recorded files to put in my project in my own studio. After mixing, we send it to our main mixer, and he does the final mixing based on my mixes with his expertise. The final step is the mastering at the mastering studio.
Next, we asked Gerben if he liked playing live, if he got to play live as often as he liked, and if he had any fears related to playing in front of people.
Yes, with our new booking agent, we try to play 20 gigs a year. I like playing in front of an audience. It gives me a lot of energy, and I have no fears at all.
And remembering how Greg Lake once said that he wrote Lucky Man when he was about 12 years old, we asked Gerben if he remembers his first composition and what age he was and whether or not that song ever came to light.
The first part of a song I ever had written was at the age of 12. It's a part which I use for our first album, The Sun Also Rises. It appears on the song called Savis Tranquillis in Undis.
All right, well, that was a very cool thing, I think, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to get a lot more of that, especially now that we're going to be on Prog Positivity Network. That might lend us a little more clout, right, Dave?
Yeah, a lot of bands, we've been so appreciative of them giving us the green light to play their music. Now with this, we're hoping we'll be able to generate even more interest with some of the more even mainstream bands who still might not be getting the kind of publicity that I believe they feel. As I was telling Tony about a week or two ago, I do strongly believe that just like in the late 60s and early 70s, where there was a lull in popular music, the audience is ripe for something like this. And I really believe, especially hearing the quality of the musicianship, the quality of the songs that a lot of the bands were playing really should be exploding on the scene. And just like in the early 70s, mid-70s, I think a lot of that music can come into play again on a popular level.
You're not the only person that thinks so. I read an article in one of the prog magazines a couple of months ago that was saying the very same thing, that the writer thought that the time was ripe for prog to possibly make a comeback in the next few years. So let's hope that we're involved in that. But to get things moving along, we're going to play a track from the first Night Area album from 2004. The name of the album was The Sun Also Rises, and we're going to play the title track, The Sun Also Rises. Again, that was the title track from the 2004 Night Area album, The Sun Also Rises. On this album, it's kind of like a Klazinga, almost like a solo album, you know, where he's been saving up material for years and he's putting it together and he's the main force, and he has a cast of characters around him, like various guest musicians.
Including his brother.
His brother.
His much older brother.
Joop or Yoop.
Yeah, along those lines.
Yeah.
And as Tony has said, when my brother has been on, the older brother tends to influence the younger brother and what they're listening to.
I guess the older brother, I think he actually wrote some lyrics, and he was playing some flute on this album, I believe.
Yeah, he, according to my records, he actually did lyrics tone for 4 of the songs.
Okay.
On here.
Okay, but again, this was a little bit more of it felt like a little more of a solo album, not so much of a band yet.
And you can hear that, I think,
in the music.
It's a good album. It's a good debut album.
It is. And notably, they picked up Mark Smith as a vocalist. Now, we didn't play a song that had any singing on it from this album, but Mark Smith was in from album 1, and he is still their vocalist today. Yeah,
it's the piece that we played, the instrumental. Tony selected it because he felt it, I guess, it epitomized the overall sound of the album. And you can hear Klazinga's influences on here, I think. You can hear some Genesis on here.
Definitely Genesis, yep.
One of the other influences was new to me, but as I was listening to the album, I was listening to Smith sing, and I thought to myself, where have I heard that type of voice before? Where have I heard that type of sound before? And then if you go to the website, he mentioned that Saga was one of his big influences, and the big balloon popped in my head and said exactly. It sounded like that.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of their stuff. I can't think of the name of their vocalist right off the top of my head right now. It's been a while since I've listened to them.
And I think also another thing Tony kind of brought up, there are a lot of musicians on here, a lot of guest musicians on here. And the music itself is really well done. And I love the Mellotron.
Yes.
It is scattered throughout the album.
This track in particular had that very grand, that lush, big prog sound.
That is an excellent word, Tone. Lush.
Lush.
Love that word.
And reminded me of some Peter Gabriel era Genesis for sure.
I was thinking that as well too.
And it had dynamics. I like dynamics. It started mellow and then it kicked and then it came back down and it went up and down and got quieter and louder, and that's always a good sign to me.
Like I've said, I think, Tone, on other shows we've done, a first album where it's reflective of the type of music you like, the type of influences you've had, while you're still trying to formulate your own sound out of all that. I think you can hear that. It's really good. It jumps around a lot in terms of style and tempo, but for a debut album, it's something that I would be proud to call my own.
Absolutely. But let's move along to the next album, which was called Under a New Sign, and it was released in 2007. From that album, we're going to feature a track that Dave picked called Mastermind. Once again, that was Mastermind from Under a New Sign, the 2007 album by the band Night Area.
As Tony mentioned, I am the one that selected this, and it is probably a little unfair of me. I always get on Tony normally about picking something not real reflective of the album as a whole. This was a hard rockin' type song, and if you listen to the show a lot on the podcast, you know I tend to favor that type of music. So this has kind of drew me in. But the rest of the album sounds a natural evolution tone, I think, from the first album.
And on this one, you're getting more of I think it's sounding more like a band.
Exactly.
It sounds more like a band in the studio, not so much necessarily a project of one person bringing in all these other outside people to help him finish his project.
You stole the thought right out of my mind. And with that in mind, he actually settled on 5 or 4 other people besides himself to call a band.
Right. And on this track, we heard Mark Smith. We've talked about him. We played an instrumental for the first track, but here we get to hear him. And like you were saying, I like his voice very much. He's got a nice, clean voice. He's definitely hitting the notes. He has delivery. He has power when he wants it. And I want to compliment his English for a Dutch guy. I think he sings better English with less of an accent than I could sing Dutch.
That has always amazed me how
Me too.
people where English is not their native language, that when you hear the music, when you hear them sing, they sing better than we speak English. And that's probably a testament to the educational system over there as well, too, as well as the intelligence and the creativity behind some of the minds that's producing this great music.
Yeah. Again, like I said, we had a little more of a band here at this point, and one notable pickup here, who became a regular from here on out, was Peter Van Horn on drums. And those of you who have been listening to our show might recognize that name, because Peter Van Horn is also moonlights as the drummer in Nine Stones Close,
which has become one of my favorite bands, regardless of classification as prog. Over the past month, they're pretty much getting constant airplay on my turntable, as they say.
Your CD player.
My CD player.
Your CD carousel.
Yeah, I also, again, being a guitar player, I tend to gravitate towards that. I do have to throw some props out to both guitarists in the band at this time. Rennie Hugen, again, my apologies for the pronunciation, and Mark Vermeulen. The guitar playing on this tune, I think, is reminiscent of, again, that Steve Hackett style of playing, that where it's not just explosive leads, it's more atmospheric and complementary.
Yeah, part of the composition. The runs, they're part of the composition and not necessarily just here's a guitar solo.
Right. Which is one of the things that has impressed me about Klazinga's music. As he goes along further and further, all the instruments find their appropriate place in his compositions, in the music. And as you listen to this, you will definitely hear an improvement, I think, and as Tony attributed it to earlier, that it's a band more this time.
And I believe at this point we had Geese Koopman playing bass. There's some nice bass work on these albums.
I knew you were going to bring that up at some point, because it starts to become a little bit more prominent here and more prominent later.
Right. But let's move on. Let's move on to the next album, Realm of Shadows. And it was released in 2009. And we got another Dave pick on this one called Dark Souls.
just the sky casting its light on things that lay so long concealed for mortal eyes. It all comes back to me now, the soul's dwelling in darkness, my function in the chain of history. I This mind belongs to me now. You chased away the remnants of the soul who owned this body when I placed the fatal mark. With two souls lost in darkness, facing all the violence of a world that looks upon us with its God-forsaken eyes. And now you're at my doorstep. The fires of the torches cast a red glow on the walls, breaking down the windows with hatred in their eyes. And the curtains burn, smoke rushes across the ceiling. So take my hand and run now. You will remember how we ran so many times before, from the marching crowds of madness, from the pounding, killing floor, from the cursing me, from the distant cries of
Dark Souls from the Realm of Shadows album by Night Area, 2009.
Absolutely love this song, Tone. And I actually love the album from the first opening notes of Ethereal on through the final close. The guitar playing is
Mark
edgy.
Van Mule or Van Mula, however you say Vermula,
Right.
I'm sorry.
I have written here a natural evolution. And that's what you want to see in bands. You want to see them continue to grow and evolve. And in this album, I actually sensed that they knew they were getting there. And they were proud of it. And they were saying, that's right, we're here. We've arrived.
Yeah, and again, you said an evolution. Well, what I'm hearing on this album also is, it's still very predominantly keyboard stuff. I mean, there's still plenty of keyboards for all you keyboard fans out
Right.
there. But you're hearing more guitar, bass, and drums, and they're becoming more important to the overall song. There was some really cool syncopated stuff between those instruments, the guitar, the bass, and the drums. With the keys were just like kind of background in those places. Then in other places, the keys stepped out and took the lead again. So, Klazinga is still composing most of the music, but I think those other three guys were like, they're helping put their stamp on these songs.
A lot more input. It actually reminded me more of, notice that John Anderson just had a birthday this past week.
Happy birthday to John.
And on my Facebook page, I said the greatest frontman of arguably the greatest prog band in the history of music.
Sure.
And this music started to remind me more of whereas Genesis was kind of layered with a mellotron and a lot of keyboards, especially in the early days with Peter Gabriel. Yes had always been like a rockin' type prog band, and this is what I heard on this album.
Yeah, where the individual members were all virtuosos, and everybody got their time in the sun, basically.
You're hearing the bass a lot more. You're hearing, I think, different tempos, different rhythms on this a lot more. Like I said, I got the sense that they had become one. They had merged in one mind, 5 different extremities.
Right. Well, I guess we're going to move along to the next album so that we can get up to that sample of the brand new album after that.
Got a lot of music for you guys today.
We got a lot of music
5 songs today.
Yep. So the 2011 album by Night Area was called Nine Paths. And from that album, we would like to play a song called The River. again, that was The River from the 2011 Night Area album, 9 Paths.
I loved this album.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved this album. The explicatives just spewed from my mouth when I was saying, love this album.
Cool. Yeah, one of the things that I noted was that it had the same lineup as the previous album, the exact same personnel lineup. And I think that, again, you hear that on this album, that it's an extension of the last album and even more cohesive. Like, this band is gelling. How Dave made the analogy a few shows back about climbing the mountain and getting closer to the peak. Well, they're getting pretty darn close to the peak here.
Yeah, they could probably spit and hit the peak from this point here.
From this album, yeah.
The guitar playing on this from Vermeil is just jaw-dropping. The music is cohesive. It's one. The changes are right where they should be. The River and the middle songs actually are commercially viable, I thought. There is an instrumental on here that I just fell in love with, Pride and Joy. It's only a short one. It's like 2.5 minutes, but it's a must. It's worth buying the album alone. I have stars next to the last 5 songs, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got stars next to them, next to all of them. That means buy the album.
Buy the album, The River. 9 Paths with the song The River. But back to the song a little bit. I like the lyrical themes, talking about the timeless river flowing kind of stuff. That's always cool.
I'm glad you brought up lyrics. I had forgotten about that earlier. When you read the lyrics, and Smith is writing most of them at this point, they seem like death metal lyrics with prog music background, which to me didn't work in some areas, but it worked on this album, I thought. Everything, again, just jived perfectly. With The River, as Tony was saying, it's an interesting piece. To me, it fell in line with the prior 2 songs that were more commercially viable, even though The River's coming in at a little over 7 minutes.
Right. I think it also had that one, it had some big prog sounding interludes of just instrumental passages with lush keyboards again.
Yeah, I got that on here too.
And then at about 4:50, we got that classic prog change up where the tempo and the syncopation changed completely. And then some of the soloing going on there was really reminding me of Tony Banks from like Lamb Lies Down on Broadway era.
Actually, I have on my notes, it's like a Genesis shift, except it's Keith Emerson, who was more of a rocker, playing those keyboard solos there.
I heard a little, I don't know, I heard with the portamento on it, it was starting to remind me of some of the later stuff on the Lamb a little bit. But anyway.
And one real quick note, Tone, I have on my notes, poor Vermeil left out of the loop on this one. Doesn't get the shine, but boy, does he leaves his stamp, as Tony said earlier, over the rest of it. This is a must buy. If you're going to buy just one of their albums, and granted the new one we haven't covered yet.
We haven't heard the whole thing.
But this one, make it part of your collection.
Yeah, this is definitely a worthy purchase. Again, if you can't find it locally, you can always get it online.
Get it on their website. They have a great website.
They do have a great website, which, by the by, we definitely want to mention that.
Great website. Definitely check it out.
All right. Well, anyway, I think that's going to bring us to the moment you may have been waiting for. I know we're excited that we were given the opportunity to, I don't know, kind of premiere one of these songs. I guess it's probably being played other places, but they sent me a couple of tracks personally. Again, thank you, Hans Ravensberger. And we're going to play a song from their brand new album, Hyperdrive, which was just released maybe 2 weeks ago, I think. And the name of this track is Afraid of the Dark. Afraid of the Dark from the brand new album by Night Area called Hyperdrive.
Oh my bleeping God. This was a great, I just love this song. Just loved it. It's everything that I am. Everything that I am.
It's definitely a harder edge sound right off the bat.
Mark Bogart is the new guitar
Yes, they
player
have a
on
new
this.
guitar player on this.
After the amiable split of
Mark Vermeulen.
wanted to spend more time with his family, and Tony and I are old guys. We can certainly relate to that. But this song here, again, Tone, it's not that long of a song. Would it come in about 5 minutes?
5 minutes, I think, somewhere in there, yeah.
It's commercially viable in a way that is different than I think the other songs were on the previous albums that were commercially viable, where I thought they were almost ballad types. This is good old-fashioned rock and roll. Great, borderline, heavy metal. It just, I love the chunky rhythm guitar playing on it. Again,
there's some really nice runs too. And I saw in the liner notes for the album, I saw that Arjen Lucassen is a guest. I'm not sure if Arjen played on this track or not, but some of those runs were really, I'm not that familiar with Bogart right now, so I don't know. Could they have been Arjen?
Right. Tony told me when he first previewed this for me, because he knew I fell in love with it instantly. Tony knows what I like now after getting together with him all summer. And he says, yeah, but the earlier stuff, it's more early Genesis type stuff, so don't get too excited, although I know you love early Genesis. This is just screaming rock and roll. I love it. Right. Absolutely love it.
It was definitely a change of pace here for the band.
He could cough on the rest of this album, Tone, and I'd still buy it just for this song.
And by now, we're also featuring Peter Vink on bass in the band. They did change up on the bass player as well. And for those of you keeping score at home, Peter Vink was also involved in Nine Stones Close. So basically, this is right now in Night Area, they have the basic same rhythm section as Nine Stones Close is using when he records his stuff. You got Peter Van Horn on drums and Peter Vink on bass.
I'm telling you, Tone, Holland is the place to be right now if you're into prog, almost like Seattle was with the grunge era back in the early 90s. All these guys must live like right down the street from each other. It must be just so exciting to live there and be there at this time.
And I think that all musicians over there must be named Peter or Mark, because at this point, aside from Gerben, you have Peter Vink, Peter Van Horn, you got Mark Bogart replacing Mark Vermeulen, and Mark Smith singing. So I don't know if you have to be named Mark or Peter to get an audition.
Yeah, it might be. It might have to be. It's part of the job description, which is why Dave and Tony do this instead of being on Prog-Watch.
So anyway, I guess we're going to wind it up for this week.
That wraps it up for Night's Era. Again, we cannot thank them enough for their participation, cooperation, a new feature that we hope to continue as the show goes along, right, with a Q&A.
Thanks, Gerben, for answering the questions, and thanks, Hans, for setting it up for me.
We loved your music, guys, and we hope to feature some more of it.
Right.
Down the road.
Down the road, once we get on the network. On Prog Positivity, we're going to be coming back to a lot of these bands and digging a little deeper and reacquainting you with some of the stuff and turning you on to new stuff.
Yes, because I have yet to find one band that you, Tone, have done. I haven't done all the shows, granted, but I have yet to find one band that I kind of thought, wow, I didn't like these guys. They're all great bands.
Yes, they are.
They all deserve a part or a space in your record collection. You listeners at home.
Yeah. And speaking of great bands, maybe you are the next great band. So don't forget about that feature that we're working on, the Prog-Watch watch list. Send your submissions. Send me a link on the Facebook page or to my Big Squatch email, or send me an MP3 directly to the email. Please include a short bio. And remember that by sending me the track, you are consenting to allow me to play it on the air.
As Tony said earlier, we've already gotten a couple. We've gotten more submissions than we've gotten emails.
Yeah. Actually, we have. Or I think it's tied right now.
It's
2-2, I think.
And Lucasen sent us one of the emails even.
Well, no, I wasn't counting that one.
You weren't counting that one? Okay.
Yeah, but it's a cool email.
Yes, it's a cool email. It's
And
number one. I'd make a copy of it, put it up on the wall.
When we do get back to our Arion, the project, we're going to have a little bit of the same kind of Q&A that we had here with Gerben. But Arjen Lucasen couldn't take time out from, he's recording right now a new project. So he couldn't answer them in his own voice, but he did answer to my email and respond via text. So, we'll be reading those on the air when we get around to doing that.
Yet another reason for you to listen to us and carry your listening ears over to the online
Prog Positivity Network. All right, then. So until next time.
Great show again, Tone. Great band. Couldn't be happier.
It's been a pleasure. And remember, prog on, brothers and sisters.